Hello,
How are you?
I'm fine. Good day, sir. You're welcome. It's good to see you again.
It is. Now, is this the last class, or do you have one more?
I think after this we'll have two more. This will just two
Two
more.
more. Okay.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. So I guess they're coming in gradually. Let me just set up my.
Well, I'm flexible. I don't have a hard stop, so we can go whenever
Okay. Yeah. Let me check. Okay. All right. So, without wasting much time, I would like us to get started. I know some people might be coming in, maybe a little bit later. So we have here once again Mr. Gary Jinks. He was with us from the very first day when he did or handled crafting a business vision. And today he's going to be taking us on another important aspect of what we are trying to achieve. So he will be dealing with crafting an impactful pitch deck. So it's been a journey for this is week 10 of this accelerator program. We've got 2 more weeks to go. And we've all been on this journey together. We've seen how we've developed, progressed, learned, relearned, and so many things. And now we are here. So I will just hand over to Mr. Gary so that he will take us on what he has for us today. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Luke. I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, it is a journey. So this is great. So what we're going to do today is assume that you have gone through your journey and you now have all the answers and you're ready to go tell the investor. Let me
Yeah.
make sure I can share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go there. Oh, there. Can everybody see that?
Yes, definitely we can.
Okay. Let me know if I talk too fast. I can talk too fast. If you have any questions, please just speak up. Try to make it engaging.
Yes, sir. Like a preceding, we have few customers,
Yeah.
a little money. But what I want to
Okay.
ask you is, how do I talk to a company? Maybe the company doesn't want to take a chance on a new company, or like we're a newer business. They never heard of us before. The innovation we provided them, it seems kind of like we want to deceive them or dupe them or maybe steal from
Oh
them
yeah.
because we know.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to overcome that challenge I'm facing right now. I was thinking
Well,
maybe
let
I
me
can
ask
work
you
with
a
the.
question. I'll ask you
Go
the
ahead, sir.
first question. Then look, question, but it'll help us get started. So let's see here. So when you go in to talk it, so all have you ever heard the term nobody's ever been fired for hiring IBM?
Oh yeah, yes,
It's
sir.
a US business slang. And what it means is the higher you go up the food chain, the less likely they're going to work with you. They're going to work with the IBMs, the
Exactly.
SAPs, the Oracles, and the farther up, they're going to go with whoever they can afford. Eventually, you work your way down to Intuit and Quicken, but you start up. But in the process, you're really trying to test it out. What they did is they used us to learn where the next generation of business was going.
Okay.
And with that, help them learn what they really wanted to do and so forth and so on. And that's not why it crashed or anything, but that's a fundamental hidden thing that people don't think about. Then they learned how to do it, figured out which of that they wanted to do, and then they went back and hired the big five consultants like they always do, and worked with the big guys they always do, and just did what corporations do. And all the .com was like, well, where'd you guys go? Well, we were never going to hire you.
That's true.
And so as you work your way down, so it's more important to where can you get out to the market the fastest, the easiest, with the least amount of friction. And wherever that is, go there. Doesn't matter what it is, just go there. Learn what you don't know. Because to back up for the slide that's coming, a couple things here that are critical in this space are what we call tribal standards, and it's based around a unicorn mentality. And the first thing is, are you 10 times better than what's currently out there? Odds are, if you're doing something with AI incorporated, it's not just Chat GPT, then you probably are 10 times better. The other tribal standard is how fast can you get to $100 million? Now that is raised, I'm assuming that you're getting ready to look for your first real sophisticated angel fund. Okay, so with most of you being here with that, then you're trying to get through the more prepared you are, the easier it is for that to do. Now, the next stage, you're going to go in and spend about 2 years validating, and then you're going to execute and grow and so forth. So here's what we need to do, understand. And as long as you understand that, you can tweak your conversation to your customer, your investor, your partner, your vendor, whatever it is you're talking to. And the first one is to really understand what the opportunity is for you and the players involved in your space. Having a plan to be able to fit in that space and operate and execute in there. And most importantly, know what it's going to cost. Everybody's going to make millions, but we really need to know what it costs, because that's how much you're asking for. And if that's wrong, then we're off to a bad start already. Then you need to be able to communicate that telegy, and that's the critical part. That's the thing that allows you to get past that first step in getting serious. And then at some point, you're going to have to demonstrate that you can do what you say you're going to do. Now, you're looking to get money in most of your cases to just go out and prove that you have the right product at the right price and scale. You're going to go through this 2-year process, and things are going to happen here. You're going to get bought. You're going to fail. You're going to be outstanding, go for a Series A. You're going to buy these investors out and just say, well, here's your 3 times ROI. We're done. Now you're a debt-free company. You do whatever you were going to do. Whatever happens here is this is where a big shift happens. All right. So that's what we're all talking about primarily. The rest is pretty simple. After that, you just scale and make more money. So now that's the basics. That's the basics of what a startup model is, what you're trying to do. You're really trying to make your investors happy. If you do that, everything else works. So now you're going to go and talk to an investor and get money. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how to do it, how to carry yourself in there, and the things that are important versus do you use happy or glad on this page of your pitch deck. And with that in mind, it really is not about the pitch deck. I came out of corporate. And when I first started in the startup world again in 2009 with helping Plug and Play get launched. If you know who they are, they're a Silicon Valley incubator. That's when I got started and saw some things, and everybody was focused on pitch decks. The pitch deck is the easiest thing to do. If you guys have done what you were supposed to do from the first time we spoke until today and went through these exercises, generated all that information, got all that knowledge, learned what was going on there, then the pitch deck is easy because you've got the data. But what a lot of people do is they get tied up by building their business through their pitch deck, not just documenting what their business says. So the first thing is to have a scalable business. If you did things right, you have a vision, you understand where that opportunity is, the problems that need to be solved, the product that has to be produced, and you've got a benchmark product that you think is going to do the job. You validate it a little bit. You got some revenue. People like to use it. Some people even say they like it. And now you're here. So you're on the way to validating you have great scalable business. So once you've got that figured out and you have the evidence, the one question as an investor, a lot of us like to ask to start is, where is the evidence? The evidence that what you're doing is going to work. And that's a little deeper discussion. But Any questions at this point? We're just getting started. So before you begin, it's important for you to understand what kind of investor you're looking for. So Scale Upstream is a platform we've been testing. It's a new MVP. It's been out for 2 years now. Well, it'll be 2 years in July. It'll be 2 years. And we rolled it out kind of slow. And but it's important to understand who you're looking for and what you're trying to do. When we first started testing with Stardust, we let everybody have unlimited access to investors, and all they did was come out and just fire in shots everywhere, like randomly, just going to every investor and just doing their thing. And that actually was good and bad. It didn't give you an opportunity to learn. So anyway, if you need to define your investors, are they in your sector? If you're fintech, healthcare, what are you doing? What size are you looking for? What size did they invest in? If they invest 10 million and you're looking for 250K, they're not going to fund you. And if you want, and vice versa. So you have to understand. So get the look of who you are. Do they invite the U.S., Latin America, just EU, just Africa? Are they global? What is their thing? And here's the real thing to look at for investors. A lot of people say, oh, they've invested in my space doing people, like what we're doing. If that's the case, and it's been recent, let's say 18 months, they probably won't do it again. But take a look what they've invested in and see if it's complementary to what you do. If you plus something they've invested in adds up to 3, then you've got them in. And then you can approach them and say, hey, I saw you invested in this company. Well, if you add that to that, we can make that company grow 3 times as fast together. And if they look at that and say, wow, you could. Perfect. There you go. You're funded. Another thing that's important is it's as important for you to look at investors as much as they look at you. Some investors are too active. They spend too much time. They try to make too much control of your company. They get in the way. They waste your time. And some are just too passive. They were going to come and help with all this stuff, but then they're not. So you want people that have the right amount of what you're looking for. Not too much, not too little. Now, have a funding strategy. And that's really more important than says, oh, well, we're either going to go IPO or get acquired. And that's nice, but there's other things out there, investor buyout strategy. When you start talking to investor, they're in it for them. They don't really care what happens to you. They want to know when I'm going to get in, how much am I going to make, how fast am I going to get that, and when can I get out? And so that's really on there. So have a strategy so when they ask questions, they say, oh, well, we think that we're going to buy you out. We're going to go and get VC funding after this. We think we can be profitable enough for that. Actually have a plan for that. Think it through. And then start building your contacts, just like what you're doing here in the incubator, you're in the accelerator. Get to know who's here, the insiders, the attorneys and investors. Start building contacts around you. Take advantage of things like Scale Upstream, see what's going on there, people that do what you're interested in, and just keep that going because it is a truly global world. But the idea is for us to get what you need locally, maybe with global folks helping that, but try to dial that in locally. That's where you're going to probably be successful. So do those things before you begin. Have a plan. Have a data room. Did you guys have a data room class?
No.
Not really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just the basic paperwork. So as you go out and start talking to people and things and people start wanting to give you money, they're going to want to see certain stuff. Like these kind of things. If you're going to talk to investors, the basics is to have a 1-pager and a pitch deck. But as you move down the process, they're going to want to see your plans, 3-year, 5-year, 1 year, your financials, what's it going to cost? Can we make money? How do you make money? If you're making money, what's your profit loss statements? What are your actuals? What's your burn rate? And because they can then take those numbers and see where you are, what you've done, multiply that out and say, yeah, this looks like a good deal. Your cap table, do people have shares of your company already? Who's got what's going on with there? Do you know what you want for funding? Is there a term sheet? Do you have a note? Corporate documents, are you incorporated somewhere? If you don't have any of these yet, then you have whatever you have. So more is always better. As you go down the process and create more documents that define who you are, even sometimes documents that establish what your back end's built out of. We used Microsoft this for that, AWS for this, that's just in a high level. An investor could look at that and say, oh, okay, got it. I can see. Looks like your back end is done right with modern, all the good stuff. So those are kind of things that you need. Any thoughts on that? Questions? Again, it's one of those things like teams. You only have what you have today. Yeah, were you going to say something?
Yes, sir. These documents, I mean, as a startup, how much do you think we should invest in all this legal?
Well, you need them
finance?
as you need them. So you're not going to jump into the deep sheet. You're probably not going to get incorporated anytime soon. So you don't need to worry about that. A pitch deck and understanding what you're doing and something that you could give to somebody, which I'd highly recommend being nothing more than a one-pager. If you give them this, they'll have too much information. You'll confuse them and they'll say, I don't get it. So just do a good one-pager. These, you need to have these very early on because these that let you know what you're doing, when you're doing, who you're doing it to, what you think you're going to get to. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
This is pretty important. You need to have some of this. So the biggest thing that happens on the startup world is everybody jumps out and starts building something before they establish the business case. That is 98% of the time. Unless you have a customer that said, I'll give you $100 million if you build this, then you shouldn't be building anything yet. But that's not the way we are as people. As people, we know what the world wants, so we start building. That's what we do. Anyway, so that is kind of where these come in. The farther you've started building, the more expensive changes. But if you spend time in doing this, what is the real opportunity? How did you get to what you're doing? Why are you going after these vertical markets? Kind of those things we talked about at the very beginning on business case. If you really do those right, then you'll know what the idea is and you'll be able to get there. But we always build things. So it's always the yin and yang, push pull. But cap tables, any investor is going to want to see this and this. These two things will be pretty mandatory for most investors. You have to have a plan and be able to, and have it. So these things are yes. This, whoever you're talking to will pretty much tell you what their terms are, and you're going to say yes or no. You really don't have much control. It's like buying a car. This is what it is. The investor is going to say, I like what you're doing. Here's what I'll do. And then you negotiate. Then you can get incorporated. And again, anything more, all you're doing is showing that you're an organized company. And you have tools that allow you to communicate questions that are going to be asked. And you have the evidence to give it to them versus just talking about it. Oh, by the way, hold on here. There's stuff missing. Where'd it go? Oh, just data room. Oh, sorry. There's actually two things missing down here. The other thing you have to have is a good idea. And then the next thing you have to have is a team. There should be a good idea and team down here. The team is really important because that's what really starts showing that you can do what you're saying you're trying to do. So has anybody in here reached out and tried to get in investments yet? Have you talked to investors, or is that still something you're all getting ready to do?
It's like family and friends.
Okay, friends, family, and fools, as we say. Okay, well, that's good. That's getting exercise, it's like playing a guitar, you start where you start and get going, and then you eventually get better at it. So for those of you that haven't done it, or regardless, this is the process that goes on from both sides of the table. As an investor, I'm trying to find an investment, and you're trying to give me something that'll give me a compelling reason to call you back. That's probably going to be your one-pager. If I get that from you, I'm just trying to determine whether you're a fit and readiness. I'm looking for a square peg that's been around for a couple of years. Okay, if you did good investor alignment, that part we talked about, what's your investor look like? If you did that, then you'll probably say, hey, he's looking for a square peg or a square peg. Beyond that, nobody knows each other. So they're going to do that and go, okay, All right, interesting. Then they're going to say, hey, I'd like you to come pitch. Now, this may be 1 or 2 pitches. It may be 1 pitch. But they're going to ask you to come deliver what that opportunity is. And your purpose is purely to set the next meeting. Now you're starting a series of meetings that will be however it takes to either get to a no or get to a check. But assume at some point you're going to get to that meeting where everybody says, love what you're doing, bring in the team, let's talk. Now you're in the deep dive. And that's turned green and your side turned green. If you can get that far, you're probably pretty close to funding. As long as you're being transparent, work with them, listen to what they're telling you, and do it, if that's the case. Now, again, you're still in charge, so everything's a negotiation. But now it's yours to lose. The next step, it gets green on our side because now we're probably going to institute the legal aspects and spend money to put official documents together, sign things, get notes, all that. But on that side, then we're all done and we move on. So that's the process that's going to have it happen in some form or another. Now, in the future, it's going to be slightly different. You're going to go out to these investors directly, and they're going to have their own personalized thesis. They're going to have their questions, their answers, their importance, their weightings, and you're going to go out, you're going to click a button, and you're going to answer their questions, and you're all going to get scored. That's where the future is going because there's just too many people out there. So this is where if you can go out and understand who you're going at, look at that, say, hey, that's me. If you score, you'll know where you really fit with that investor. If you're an A, they're likely to get in touch with you. But also, if you did poorly because you just weren't a fit, you didn't embarrass yourself, and you can come back and do it again. Nobody's the worse for wear, and you can learn. And so this is where the future is going. And then from here, these will all turn into one-on-one engagements, and then the idea will be to feed you into the local Nigerian through the organization and collection of folks that have that. So, for example, this is just Scale Up Stream. And Scale Up Stream has Maria. She came and taught a class with you, one of your classes, and she's got 250 investors in Africa. So there's all sorts of folks out there. So that's where the future is going, which will help get you more directly connected to you need to. A little plug for Scale Up Stream, but that's its purpose in life is to tie it together. Now, that was a little bit of early steps. So now we're getting into some key things, and this is really important. This is really, as an investor, we're looking at how you handle yourself, how you carry yourself. If you walk in the room and said, hey, I'm looking for a partner, would I be interested in being your partner? Those kind of things. And usually what that means is you're speaking in a more strategic level. You're not sounding like a sales rep or a developer. You have the ability to answer those questions if somebody asks you. That's what makes a great CEO. But you understand the big picture, you're never really selling your product. You sell your product to your customers, which is also what confuses a lot of entrepreneurs on selling their vision and business case to investors. We're not buying the same thing your customers are buying. We're buying something different than them. So as you're selling us your product, we get tired of that real quick. You're here because your product fits the square peg that we're looking for. So we're pretty sure that you're in that space. We need to know more about your product, but it's really about your business case initially. So when you first are working with meeting with investors, particularly at the beginning, it's really that as a CEO, you have a clear vision and see an opportunity, and you have a solution plan and a team to capture that opportunity. That's your clear message to everybody you talk to. If they're interested, going, oh, really? What, now they can start peeling the onion back and you can, answer specific questions. But this is really your vision to anybody, an investor, or partners, all them. This is what you're doing, and then you start from this. That's really important to sound and speak like a CEO, have that confidence and so forth. It's the hardest thing for most people to do because most people are young and they haven't spent 20 years becoming a CEO. They got up in the morning, launched a startup, and somebody said, okay, you're the CEO, pitch. Okay. Questions? Okay. So now we talked about talking like a CEO. So now let's think about a CEO a little bit. Starting with a vision. How many of you have a vision? If I was asked for an example, okay, there you go, hand up. Go ahead. Oh, that was first one was let's see that Jugan, is that you? I think you were first. And then it's Emmanuel.
Okay. Let me just. Figures, yeah, you have the mic, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, hi Gary, can you hear me?
I can. You're clear. Let me get a piece of paper here.
Okay, our vision is to create a world where retail is digital, automated, and organized.
Okay. That could be, that's on the edge of a mission and a vision a little bit. Do you think? So
Oh,
vision is
okay,
you what you're saying is I would say from a vision you've got sort of think of a format. The future of retail will be
okay,
digital,
okay,
organized, you know, smart, whatever the case is. So what I'm saying? It's a
okay,
slight shift on things, but it shows us a point at somewhere out there where you think it's headed, and the person go, yeah, I agree. And now we have an opportunity of how to do that. So what you're doing here is you formulate your business case from your vision. If you believe that's going on out there, then this opportunity says, well, that puts us in this sandbox and this TAM, let's call it your target market. And these are the things that are going on. We've talked to a lot of customers. We can validate it. There's trends, there's so forth that point to this. We have the evidence that says if we can just do this, people will come. And because of that, we've identified cost and how to get there. So that becomes your thinking like a CEO. You're focusing on where you think everything's going. Now, again, this is assuming you're building a long-term solution and not just a short-term product that says, here's a great investment we can do in 3 years. If you're doing that, then you're focused purely on the product, but it's not a long-term complex business, if that makes sense. And they're both doable businesses in the startup world. You could be doing either one. And that's a different discussion on that though. But thinking like a CEO, you know where things are going, you know what needs to be done. The reality is all of you started building your product because you had a gut feeling of where things could happen. But I bet most of you didn't start from having a true vision of where it was going and understanding the opportunity, the competitor, and what the real problems. I bet if I was to look at your slides, pitch decks, the problems you're solving are all customer problems. None of them are the strategic problems of getting capturing the opportunity or any of those kind of things. So when you're presenting to so that ties us into how most of you are presenting. This is what you guys are presenting to us. That you have the best idea, the best solution. If I look at your competitive spreadsheet, you've got all the yeses and or X's, and nobody else does, and therefore your product is better. It's a better value. It provides more benefit, and it's priced right. I mean that's what you're selling, and that is what you're selling to your customer. That's not really what you're selling to us, because if you haven't built the product and have anybody using it, how do you know it's the best idea or best solution? So there's a little problem with your logic. Now, know those of you that started getting revenue, we can start talking. But prior to that, we really can't. So here's what an investor is looking for. We're looking for the best opportunity. All of you startups out here running around in the lobby have the best deal. That nobody's doing it. It's amazing. You know, it's awesome. We're going to make $1 gazillion. But which one has the best opportunity? So let me ask this. You're always supposed to be solving a problem, right? So most of you are probably solving the problem of the consumer if I was to be looking at your slides. But what are the problems but who's your first customer? Really, that's going to be the investor is going to write you the first big check. So if you wanted to solve my problem, what would those problems be? What are you trying to solve? What are my problems? So you need to know that before you talk to investors. You need to know the investors' problems. You all do know their problems. Once I tell them to you, you're going to go, but
Return.
what's that? Returns? Absolutely. Returns. That's our problem. That's the only reason we're here. In fact, we want the highest return in the shortest amount of time with the lowest risk. If that's you, you're getting the check. Don't care what you're doing. You're going to give me the most amount of money in the shortest time, the lowest risk. That's why I'm here. That's what I want to do. So your job is to convince me that's you. All of you have great ideas in doing stuff, but whoever can do this is going to get the check. So keep that simple thought. That's what you're trying to do for the investor. Now you look at a common pitch deck. These are the ones that have been around forever. Is that what you guys looked at? The Guy Kawasaki and Sequoia Capital. They've been forever. The reality is anymore today. If somebody says, if you're pitching to an investor, they say we use the Sequoia Capital model, then you should go and do that. That's what you want to do. But as an investor and stuff, most of us don't care. I recommend that you do a pitch that is comfortable to you. It's in the order that's comfortable to you. You know, we really don't care. As long as at the end it's clear, we know what you're saying. We understand what the opportunity is. We know, what's going on. And it's compelling, giving us a reason to call you back, which means you haven't answered all the questions. You've left things hanging, so we have to call you in. So be comfortable, make it yours. As soon as you try to force something into a format that you're not comfortable with, it won't feel comfortable and you'll never be comfortable. You'll always be working to something. So just do it your flow, whatever works for you. As an investor, we're also trying to look at you and see how you operate. How do you respond to questions? It's not about the pitch deck. It's about everything else. The pitch deck just helps us all stay organized and stay on task. So let's talk about those visions. We talked about that. So that's what we're going through there. You got to have a vision to start from. We're going to go through and look at the opportunities. The big things in the opportunities right here. It's really not the TAM and SAM. Those are nice numbers. So when you're talking to an investor, it's really about where is the evidence? What are the trends? What says that? And the perfect evidence, when you say, hey, I've got evidence that shows that, we've gone out and brought on 5,000 users. Of those 5,000 users, these 18% converted to building this, and then those 10% of those converted to paying customers, and 5% of those, in fact, paid like this. And so then I can look at that as an investor and go, okay, that was a period of time. That's the things were in place that caused that to happen. Do the math, roll that out 5 years and go, yeah, that's a good idea. That's the best evidence you can come up with. As soon as you get to that point, then it's either a yes or no real quick off the numbers. But until that, there's a lot of other things involved. So when we're talking about the opportunity that investors are investing in, the first question we have to ask is, are you in a good sandbox? Is what you're doing, not the product you're building, but the space you're in, is that a good sandbox? Most of you, if I remember, were doing fintech and e-commerce and so forth type things, and you're associated around delivery and banking. Is that correct? It's been a while.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been 10 weeks now, so I don't remember
Yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Advertisements.
yeah. I've listened to a lot of startups since then. I confuse them occasionally. So anyway, is that even a good place to be in? Now, the reality is the digitization of Africa is a great place to be in. So it's a good sandbox. A lot of money to be made there, so they say. Okay. So what is going on in the market? Now we're looking at what's going on that's driving you to do. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why now? What trends, use of digital, trends that are going on in the economy, trends that are just going on, what things are happening that are really changing things. So for example, I'm going to give you something to think about here. The idea of AI. Many companies, when they say, hey, we're an AI company, say, great. Well, what are you doing in AI? They say, oh, we're using Chat GPT to do this. Oh, so you're doing generative AI on your platform? Yes. I said, well, Microsoft gave me that about 6 weeks ago. It's on my computer now. I just point a button, talk to it. It does things. I ask it questions. It does it better. And I can do that. So what do I need your platform? So a lot of startups that that are coming out now that have been building their AI are going to be in trouble because a lot of the things they're building that they call AI, is already on 98% of the computers. If you have Windows 11, you probably have AI on your computer. So that's the trends are what are going on. Why now? So it's really important to understand the trends that are coming, and AI, just apply it the right way. Don't apply it to something that Microsoft's just going to give you, like they did the Excel spreadsheet. They're going to say, hey, here's an AI for sales. And that looks, you use it like their spreadsheet. Now you just wrap your stuff around that. And now you've got your sales AI unique to you. So understand these kind of things, what's going on in the market. And then that's going to drive you to market segments. Now, most of you just said, hey, I'm going to build something and go after these people. But you really didn't drive it down from these kind of things. You just jump right in here. So a lot of time when somebody says, hey, I had customers and we're doing this, and I say, how'd you arrive at that customer? Well, that's just the customer I went after. That's who I built it for. Oh, okay. Well, why did you build that? And why for them? Anyway, that's a complicated discussion. But think of the opportunity in that manner. Are you in a good sandbox? Why? But the most important part, what trends are really happening? Are you getting the right way? Are you doing the right things? Are you drinking your Kool-Aid, or are you really knowledgeably doing where you think it's going? All right, competitive landscape. So now we're going to wrap up that whole vision discussion, because now everything comes to competitive landscape, and we're talking about that in a business manner, not a product comparison. Because again, you really haven't proven that you have a great product yet. You just believe you do. And in the next 2 years, once you get funded, you operate that for 2 years and build up a large unit, you'll find out that some parts of it weren't as good as you thought, and that the user dynamics is completely different than you thought. And so anyway, so you want to show the investor when you're talking to them, not that you have a better product. That's a hard argument to win when you haven't built it or you haven't put it in enough people's hands to validate that. However, you can explain to them that you're on the right pathway. And so we're doing that through a historical value of your competitive landscape. So if you, again, this is kind of thinking like a CEO. You've got incumbents, the people that have been doing this forever. You've got the new kids on the block who probably took what the incumbents were doing and put it online, made it a SaaS model. But then you've really got the new people like you that are coming to the next generation, which in this case I call AI 1.0. It's going to be the first wave of AI that goes out on a large scale consumer business application. AI has been around for a long time. But most people couldn't afford it. Nobody really talked about it until ChatGPT came out. There really was no consumer AI other than stuff on our phones that did things like fixed pictures or made enhanced color and stuff like that. That was loose AI. But now it's coming real. Chips are coming on phones. It's everywhere. So the next generation of people doing what you're doing are what you're going to be looking for. And so you're going to bring your competitive landscape up. Let's say you believe that the future is going to be faster and it's going to create action, not just connect things. It's going to be faster and actionable. So that means the opposite of that is slower in information and static. So almost usually all the incumbents are down here. They're all static. They're slower. They're just standard HTML web-based emails. They're nothing special. And some of them even do snail mail still. But then the new kids on the block came out and they started moving things on and go to SaaS models, and they become much faster. They really weren't actionable. There's no AI involved, but they did have a way to connect things, move things down the road. So they got significantly faster in how the SaaS 1.0 operated. Now we know of one company that's moving down our direction as well. They're also moving towards an actionable activity out of theirs, but they're really focused on healthcare. So they don't really care about faster. They just have to be right when they make a decision. So, but we believe the real money is to be made by being faster and actionable. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're bringing to the marketplaces in order to do that. Yada, yada. There you go. So that's the kind of story that talks that says, okay, so now you can go in and start talking about what are the real problems to be solved. And the problems to be solved aren't really the customer's problems. If you solve if you're solving the real problems, you're solving the problems that customers don't have. And most of those customers are going to have a problem, particularly in Africa, is how do I go from what we can almost call an analog environment with moderate digital available to all to an environment where it's an AI-driven economy and society. That's a big jump for a lot of people. I mean, just moving to the internet was a big jump. I remember when the corporate world, if you got a real important email, you printed it off and put it in your desk drawer with all the other paper you filed away. Nobody trusted anything. It was a real transition at that time. I was a young person. I thought it was cool. The old people thought it was going to be terrible. Anyway, it's the nature of the beast. So you need to be solving the real problems, which is the strategic problem to capture the opportunity. And how do you make these people transition to this? What do you really have to put into place? Why are you 10 times better? What's going to make you 10 times better than what's out there today? And you just explain that, show some numbers, and then understand what future is coming, adopting it, what emerging tech is going, what are the trends that are happening, and have some metric statistics back that up. That's really it. Not that we're going to help the fragmented people. So our customers tell us they're spending too much time on Excel. It takes too hard to do this, to do that. Yeah, that's all nice, but you're assumed to fix that. You're going to do it in a manner. So as the investors, we know you're going to do that. And we probably haven't used your product to know if your idea is right. And we're going to help you build that in most cases to help you point in the right direction. So it's all about solving those big problems. The user problems are just these things right here. Yeah, we're going to be 10 times better with the user buys today. Done. These are the problems that you want to understand how you're incorporating this right. If you're telling me that all you're going to do with AI is use it as chat GPT, well, as an investor, I'm not too excited anymore unless you're doing something more than that with it, because everything's going to have that in a year. So those kind of things. And then, of course, understanding you got to present to us what your product is, what it does, how it does it, why it's important. And no more than that. Keep it simple. That's important. Those are the key things on your product, not pages and pages of how your product works and screenshots. If we have questions, we'll ask. You want to leave us hanging, so we invite you back. So you don't want to tell us everything. We want us to get down. They were pretty cool. I had some real questions there. Yeah. We're going to have to invite those folks back. What's really important to do that is the why you. Yeah, you've got a product. We've heard people have products like you, but we like what you're doing. Now, why you? Do you have a particular advantage? Do you have a particular patents, or do you have a unique business model like an Uber or a Airbnb, or do you have a unique way of doing it? Is it who you are? You've got some of the right people in the right place at the right time. Do you have a partnership that's going to open doors for you? These are the things that will sway an investor. Most of you look the same. If you say, this is what I do and this is the product, you're all kind of, okay, you're all similar. Especially if you're doing exactly the same thing, then you're probably solving all the same consumer problems or customer problems and all those things. So it's hard to understand there. So this really starts separating you from investors. Any questions on problems and who you and why? And oh, okay, I'm kind of hitting me the fire hose a little bit. But anyway, so this kind of wraps up where we're going on how to talk. It's not so much happy to glad in your pitch decks or having a beautiful pitch deck. I don't want to say that it's not important to have a professional pitch deck, but don't spend 1,000 hours and don't build your company in your pitch deck. Your pitch deck should just communicate all the things you've done from the beginning to today. Now you're going to take all that knowledge and say what it is. And you are where you are. You don't want to sell yourself as being further along than you are, and don't sell yourself as being not as long as you really are. Be accurate, clear, concise what you're doing, where you are. And there's investors that are all along the journey. So it's important to align with them correctly. So as soon as you say you're farther along than you are, you're going to find yourself talking to investors. As soon as they sit down and talk to you, they're going to realize instantly that you're not. And if you try to, so it's important to just, do it on both sides. So in summary, have a vision and a direction, what you're going to do, not only with the customer, but mainly where you're going to go as a company. How do you communicate that to investors? And just, having the understanding of what that's tied together. Speak strategically. amongst your team. The details are great for answering questions, or when you get down to people where the detailed questions are important. Be confident about it. Usually passion is not a problem in most startups and most entrepreneurs. You all have passion in what you're doing. You all love it. You all believe it. Some of you love it and believe it a little bit too much and don't listen for all the time, but usually that's not a problem. But try to be confident and stand behind your guns. If you've done your homework, you've done the numbers, you've done the work, and you think this is right, then don't let the first investor say, "Oh, I think you're wrong." Ask them, "Oh, why is that?" you know, Lead by example. This is the most important thing. As you're leading your startups and you're out talking to people, they're meeting you. Be good, be the right people. Listen, get along. And lead by example. People will follow that faster than anything else, and that's obvious. You don't have to explain it; everybody can see it. And that's it. Here's my email, but Tom's got my email, so we're good on that. So who's got questions? I mean, we're all late. We're still kind of on time, but we started late. And I'll answer any questions you have about investors or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We already have two hands up for.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna start with the first one. Yeah, Chuku, do you have the mic? Could you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gary. It was a good presentation. Well, I kind of have a question. How do you feel about like the co-founder or the team? Like, if I have a startup, how do I recruit? Should I like talk to people that I grew up with in the past, or try to network and find a co-founder?
Oh, that's a good question. So, two things will get you emotionally in trouble faster, and that's doing startups with friends and wives.
Okay.
And because you become personally involved and you don't necessarily have questions. Now, with that said, a little tongue in cheek, but yeah, people because the people who are going to join you are people that know you and trust you, and hopefully you're picking them because they do something that you in your vision says, "Hey, I need somebody who can do this," and they're the right person in your mind to do so. So the answer is that's a great way to do it, because if not, you've got to find them somewhere, which is where the things like Ashpod and working through incubators and accelerators and the scale up streams of the world are. There are places and ways for you now to go out and actually search broadly to hopefully find the people, because sometimes you got to go around the world to find the person that's across the street. So all those things are part of the equation, I would say.
All right.
So which one? What would your advice be to do someone that I know or find a new person in the world?
Well, I mean, now, do you mean how to bring them on board? How would that look, or how would you just purely find them?
Well, now that you mentioned both, if you can address both, how would I bring them on board? And how do I find them? Yeah.
Okay, so if you have a friend, let's assume you know somebody and you have somebody in mind. Now the real question is, as a CEO, you're going to want to understand, where do they fit in the picture of things? Are they a large criticality? Let's say, are you business side or are you a technical side?
I'm business side.
Okay, so let's use you an example. Maybe it's incorrect or not, but you're the business guy that has this great idea because you have a gut feeling of where things are going to go and what you need. So for any of that to happen, you at least have to have somebody who can build it. So you're going to, a critical person for you is a CTO. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
So, because without building it, you've just got a great idea. Now, some might argue, oh, but the next important thing is the COO. Okay, they may be important, but maybe you and the CTO are pretty good, sharp operational people. You know how to do that. So you start identifying the criticality of people, what they're going to bring. Now, is that CTO going to build the product to a certain level at no cost to anybody involved, and he's going to eat it all whatever that turns out to be, large number, small number, but whatever. Or is somebody going to have to be paid before he does anything? So those all go in decisions. And in the perfect world, they say, "Hey, I'll build the MVP. You tell me what you want. We'll build it together. I won't charge you a dime. We'll go out and build it." So in that case, they're more important to the team. you would compensate them in some sort of equity manner that's commensurate to that, and those kind of things. Is that kind of where you're going on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then you want to look at the importance and where everybody fits into the scheme of things. You want to make sure that you do it so that there's a vesting. You don't want to say, hey, we're going to give you shares and here they are, you get them all tomorrow when you start. Because then they just do that and they work for 3 days and they quit and they have all the shares anyway. So that didn't work out very well. So you want to normally in the what we'll tend to do in a sophisticated investment environment is do them anywhere from 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
With incentive. 4 years is standard, 3 years is very standard. 2 years says, hey, I'll give you incentive to do it right. And that's something you might do with a CTO who says, okay, but in that 2 years, I want this product to do the same as we're saying today. Or anyway, but there's a set. But anyway, 2 to 4 years, that's generally industry standards. And that's a negotiable thing between everybody. You want to keep that involved. You should always keep a chunk available to the company if you're going to put that. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand how things work in Africa myself. But if you're going to do it in the world where most people are somewhere in some similar manner, then that's kind of how that works.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah, yeah. Just to add, I think last week we really had a legal session. So we had a startup lawyer have dealt with most of the legal aspects. So I think all of them are up to date on how the legal side works.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially here.
yeah. I'm more talking, I'm trying to stay more on the logic of understanding of the CEO, not necessarily the legal aspects of where somebody lives.
Okay, Chigozie, you have the mic. Chigozie Njoku. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Gary. Really, really insightful session. So I have two questions. The first is really the problem opportunity dichotomy. So you've talked about how what you are selling to the customers is not really what you are selling to the investors. So I really want to maybe you should just for you to throw a bit light on that in terms of is there always a problem or is there always an opportunity? And how do you differentiate the two? Or can you just focus on the opportunity, especially when speaking to investors and probably not really talk much about the problem? So that's
that's a really good question. I like that insight. Most people don't see that. So inherently the opportunities and problems are kind of the same. If it's a problem, then it's an opportunity, right?
Okay.
And so they are very similar. When pitching to an investor, what you want to do is use them in the right place. In some cases, it becomes a big standout statistic as a problem,
Okay.
but only kind of so in the opportunity world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And sometimes there's real black and white problems. For example, I'll give you one that's very stark and it's very maybe politically incorrect, but it gets the point across. So one of the biggest areas was that took off after COVID in the startup world in the United States was mental health. Mental health platforms took off everywhere because everybody was stressed. Now, one of those areas they focused on was, and one of the statistics many of them used were young teen suicides.
Okay.
As a statistic. Now, it's very black and white. You sure as heck don't want to put that on the opportunity page.
Okay.
And say, oh man, look at this opportunity. Everybody's killing themselves. And you say, no. So that's pretty black and white. That becomes a problem. Fair enough?
Yeah.
So that's an example of how just because they could be in the same places, in many cases, in that case, it's just incorrect to do it wrong. In the United States, we call those ambulance chasers. They do exist, but anyway, those are that's a different world. But anyway, so make sure where it fits. Put it in the right place where it's the biggest impact. And if it's at home, we want it to be a home run, or you want it to be a soccer. You want it to be a goal, not just a good kick across the field.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just one more question, and this is sort of a practical question for me. So if there's a situation where maybe you've spoken to an investor and say after a first meeting and they say, oh, okay, just send us your updates, monthly updates, and just keep us in the check. How long do you really keep that going? Do you just keep them in the loop for as long as it takes? Or do you take like maybe after a process, if nothing is probably coming forth out of that conversation, then if you can let them go? What do you think?
That is a great question because as soon as you quit doing it, they were going to call you next week. It's an interesting discussion. One would argue that you should never stop. I mean, as an investor, we go along. Now we do get to the ones we just ignore it, we ignore it, we ignore it. We're never going to call. Now the question is how, like you're saying, like how long do you really go about doing it? So let's do a couple things. When an investor asks to do that, ask them what kind of information are they really looking for. I mean, updates are updates, but if it's all the same thing, if they're asking for updates, why? I mean, what is an update? I mean, do they just want your monthly newsletter? Probably not.
Okay.
So to engage the investor, and in all cases, if an investor asks a question, think of a question where you can answer it by asking a question back.
Okay.
You want engagement with the investors as much. Now they have to think and go, oh, okay. Well, hey, let me know when you get to this point. Outstanding. Now I don't have to do it every week. I know I'm going to be there in 2 months. I'll call you
That
back in
makes
2
sense.
months.
Okay.
Anyway, so always engage with them as much as you can.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Emmanuel Abba, you have the mic.
Especially Gary, I really enjoyed this section. I personally requested for the slide.
Excuse me, I
The
didn't
question
get
I
that.
have is last week, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. I thought you cut out.
Okay, I said I really enjoyed this section. I would like to get the slides. And the question I have is recently someone get in touch with me and he said he wants to partner with me. He's actually working with a wind turbine manufacturer in Germany. So he said he wants to be part of the team, that he really likes what we are doing at Waste to Light. And so he says he wants to change the business model and position the company to investors in Germany. But there is a problem. The problem is he's requesting for 40% of the share. And I told him that we can only give it to him on vesting schedule. That means we are going to start with 10%, then from his values, that we can increase it. So he said no, that he wants the 40% and he wants also to be the co-founder, which I don't have a problem with. But at the end of the day, I insisted that it's going to be on the vesting schedule, though I need his technical expertise, but I feel that I just have to be very careful in giving out shares before
You do,
someone will kick me
absolutely.
out of my company. Yeah.
So there
And
are
then
go ahead. My mistake. Go ahead.
and then the other question is that the Waste Life Limited, what we are trying to do is we want to incorporate recycling of plastic into the production of wind turbine and hydro turbine. And so that's what we are doing. And our vision is that in the 10 years to come, we want to be the leading manufacturer of wind turbine and hydro turbine, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. So,
Okay.
and we are trying to combine production of wind turbine, hydro turbine, and monorail, which is electric vehicles.
Well, let me get to the point here real quick. Let me ask you a couple quick
So,
questions. Not to
the
cut you off,
question now is that should I? Yeah. So, should I separate these three as a different
well, it
entity?
depends. Let me ask you a couple of a few things on. One is so your partner in Germany. I didn't recognize who you said they are. Are they a easily repeatable company? Do they build a similar kind of products? Are they in your space? What's their connection to your space? That's important there.
Sorry, because of my network, I didn't get the full question. Can you reiterate?
Oh, so let's start with the first question there. First off, we want to talk about, so let's first off talk about the people themselves. So in Europe and through there, they have broker dealers that absolutely have services that they offer you services that get you engaged and do it. And many of them are outstanding. They do their job. They all take money up front. They all have their processes, and some of them have as much as a 70% success rate of doing what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
Now, like anything, you're betting on the future of whether it's going to happen or not. Now, so the first question is, so the broker dealer model, there's nothing wrong with that model. However, you do have to understand who you're doing it with, and you're right. You have to be careful with giving your shares away. That's why you do it in manner. So you can set your shares so they go so that their payment is based on milestones. As soon as you say you do this, I'll give you 2 shares. As soon as you say you're going to do that, I'll do that. You did that, great. I'll give you shares. So you can do it for milestone. That's one method of doing it. And that way, if they make their accomplishments, they do. If they don't, they don't. But the idea of kind of the bigger deal of like you said, working in Germany and stuff, is you want to make sure working with companies are the most dangerous to work with. If they're capable of doing what you're doing, they could copy you. So be careful with that. You don't see that in the investor world. You don't see it in that side of the world. But as soon as you're working with a business corporate to corporate, hey, it's a dog eat dog world. They're a corporate. You're trying to take their piece of their money. So you be careful on the corporates. Here in the Valley, companies like Google and so they've run into trouble over the years by having a venture arm and listening to a company who does what they do and not really playing fair, but they're getting better. They're more sophisticated now. But companies are still companies. They're out for their company. They're there for them. So just keep that in mind. Investors and stuff, don't worry about them. It's too much work. We're too lazy. We're not gonna take anything. But just keep that in mind. Working with the German guy. Now, again, I don't know him. I work with Germany regularly. I work directly with the director of innovation for the northern states out of Hamburg. But in general, just that's what you need to just take a look at. What's the name? Do you know what's the name of the company? I might see if I know him.
He didn't tell me the name of the company. It's just he's a
An
Nigerian
individual
actually.
right now?
Yeah, he's an individual. So he's a Nigerian
Individuals
actually.
I'd be iffy with. They're harder to tie down. But I mean, if you look at him and he's closed 500 million in deals, then get his phone number.
So he said he wants to change the business model, and
They should be bringing things in and bringing value to the table. So that's a good indicator. He thinks that you have an idea, but your business model is wrong. Is that what he says?
Yeah, he said he's
Okay.
too ambitious. He's too ambitious, and investors may want to try it in form of R&D. So he said we
So
need
is
to
he
change
trying
it.
to get you government grants?
Possibly, yeah. I think that is
Okay, that's the
um
normal in Europe. The EU does that. They do government grants. There's a group on Scale Upstream called GVI. They do that. They're in multiple countries, including Africa. But they do the same thing. But you pay them a service. They're a service provider. But in most cases, the GVI is a good company. But most of all the good ones, if they say they can do it and they're real, and you look at them and they're real, that's the hardest part to tell. Then they probably can, because the good ones won't do it if they don't think they can do it, because they're wasting their time, because they don't really make money. Yeah, they get their $2,500 upfront fee or whatever it was, but that's not what they're looking for. They want that big money at the end. So most of the good ones won't do it if they don't think they can do it. So if he's coming back with a change in his model, then understand, why he thinks that could work. It's
so
always a
should
little
I
more complicated. That's it.
so should I tell him that the deal is going to be on wind turbine alone? That's the more reason why I asked the second question.
Well, I don't really necessarily know the details or so, but it's a matter of, you're the expert. Take a look what he's doing and what he is, and take a look at his company. Does he have a track record?
Yeah, I think I need to ask him that.
Yeah, just see if he's got a track record, who he is. Look him up on LinkedIn. Do the standard stuff. But yeah, be very cautious with them. Because if nothing else, they just may be a pain in the butt. They may not have the ability to cause huge, disruption in things, but they could just be a pain in the butt to where they derail you from being able to function well as a company.
Okay. I want to add something there, Emmanuel. I think another thing I could do for you, I don't know, I don't know if you were around for the last week during the Lego session. So what I would do is maybe I'll book you a session with Sarah that handled our Lego, so you could also explain the situation. Remember, you're going to have a founders agreement since he's trying to come in as a co-founder as well. So most of the things you're doing with him needs to be properly documented. And you also have to do some due diligence, like Gary said, find out his track record and all of that. So he doesn't just sell you some, elephant,
gimmick, yeah.
print. Yeah. So that's just.
I probably wouldn't bring him in as a founder. He's
Yeah.
just a connector. Now he may know some people, but I would consider maybe some shares, but I wouldn't necessarily give him the title founder.
Founder. Okay.
What's his contribution? Is it mainly the connection and the business case here to get you the money? Does he perform anything after that? Does he become like an operations officer, a CFO, the highly going to get you the money?
Is to position us to investors in Germany, and yeah, I think that's basically what.
Okay.
Now he's bringing you money, and if he does, you could, because a lot of people like a title, but founders are. It could be. I mean, you could call him a founder that he gave you money, but usually the CTO, the business guy, build the team. They tend to have founded the idea, founded everything, and then somebody like this guy will come in and he will connect you to the investors. Now, if he wants to be founder and it's a good deal and he's doing everything, then fine, make him a founder. It doesn't upset the apple cart. It doesn't, I'm saying it's not a big deal. But he does play a different role by being a founder than just being a shareholder.
Okay.
He could.
All right. Thank you so much.
I think we still have one more hand up.
Okay,
Yeah, it's way more complicated than sitting over here on my side that with the details. But you're thinking about all the right things. You're being concerned the right way. And Saul knows what he's talking about. So it sounds like.
So just a few quick questions. You said something earlier. Our business is a startup. So, in Nigeria, people are kind of skeptical. So we had an idea to work with like a corporate retail bank. And you said something earlier about working with corporate partners. And I was just wondering, it's a good idea to work with like a bank because they have a name. People know them already.
Yeah, and it depends how you're doing it and what you mean working with them. What they're doing. Then I think that's a great idea to work with the customer and understand what they want and how you can make them transition to the new way of doing business. So that's an early adopter. Is that more the case there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then that's what you want to do. Because when you first roll out, you need to get in users' hands. Because right now you have what you think is a good idea.
Right.
Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
When they start using it, you'll be amazed at things. The user dynamics will amaze you. Trust me. You're going to go, wow. I mean, we actually had to tell the startups at the beginning on Scale Up Stream to push the button that says apply to pitch.
So do you think just sending a generic email to like a corporate director was enough to get them to even?
Probably not. Probably not. You're better off trying to look in your network. Who do you know that could walk in? And does it have to be corporate? You just need users. You just need anybody that was willing to do it. And the bigger the company, the more spectacular it is. But they're going to put a lot more pressure on you because their expectations are going to be higher. So you just want to get users, get other people besides you using it.
Sure.
So that's the most important part. And you can generally do that easier through friends, family, people you know. Just start small, but get out there. Now work the big ones like a bank like this, but once you go to them, then they're going to be more work, but they'll have more return, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir, that makes sense.
No.
Okay. All right. Wow. Thank you so much. I don't see any more hands up, but I want to ask this last question, possibly. Yeah, we've talked about the visions and how to engage with the investors and all that, but I want to come back to the pitch deck. I just want to ask this. Um, is there like some things that must be in the pitch deck when you're, pitching to investor? There are like some things they would want to see on your pitch deck, or you just put whatever you think you have there, or are there like some key things they want to see on a pitch deck?
Yeah, so let me do this real quick. Let me share my screen again real fast.
Okay.
And also hasn't changed 30 years. So let me go back to these guys up here. Okay, where am I at here? Okay, so fundamentally, can you guys see this? Let me do this. There you go. So fundamentally, this should be in your pitch deck somewhere in some form. Now, I would say that with today, the way things are, it's how you do it. Now, have you all heard that your pitch deck is supposed to be 10 pages, right?
Mm.
And I believe this is why, because both Guy Kawasaki and Sequoia Capital actually came with 10 topics. And so, 10 topics, 10 topics. Oh, I guess it has to be 10 pages. That's not, but I believe that's why it got there. It needs to be what you can do to do this, to compel them to call you back. So, you have to have a purpose. You have to understand these things. Somehow or manner, you may need to touch on these. Sometimes your financials could be as simple as, just because you put up a spreadsheet on the screen that nobody in the room can read because it's too small, that doesn't do us any good, and so forth. You can hit us with just simple things that says, hey, according to 18 or da-da-da things. The other things are, again, how do you define financials? Team's pretty black and white. You have whatever you have today. You've got your business model. You just sort of can talk about that. So these things kind of all need to be in some manner, but do it in a manner that's comfortable to you. The investor knows what you're going to do. I personally think the problem is overrated to a degree, but it's become so much part of it, but I think the key part is focus on the business case, the company purpose, the why now, the market size, the competition, the business model, the team. Those are really important to say they can do it. What problem you're solving? Do you care? We're going to make $100 million. Well, I guess in that case, I really don't care.
Okay.
Anyway, but you have to have those in there to keep people happy. But these are really what you want to see. Okay. I personally like what we talked about up here is doing it like you think like a CTO. Where's that at? We were thinking like the CTO somewhere. Let me go this way. Let me back this down. Somewhere we were thinking like a CTO. Oh, that's right. It was back here. Right here. If you think like a CTO, then your message would be that I see a vision and I see an opportunity. Here's what's going on in that space. And in order to capture that, we have to solve this problem within that opportunity and competition. To do that, you need a solution like this, which guess what? Our product is amazing. That's exactly what it does. We have a plan to get there. We have the team to do it. Here's what it's going to cost. You can make your check out too. Thank you.
Okay.
So it's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. But more than important, you need to know who you're pitching to, because they may have a method. They may have a unique thing to them. But if you get up there comfortably and just tell them what you already know, and you can, that's the important part.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Gary.
Sure.
It's been a
Thank you.
wonderful session, and I'm sure everybody has learned a lot. Yeah, I think we're gonna call it a day, right?
Call it a day. Perfect. Well, we got a late start, so I didn't see when we started, but I did want to make sure. You guys have gone through a long journey. You're almost there.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be having
Please,
we'll be having 2 more workshops. Actually, Maria will be the last workshop.
Oh, so you have not met Maria yet?
Yes, yes. So Maria is
Oh man, well there you go. Yeah, Maria and I are friends. We're both here in the Silicon Valley, and she's also from Africa.
yeah. So that's gonna be the last session and that will be 2 weeks from now. So thank you so much
Perfect.
for everything you are doing to make this event and program a success. Thank you for standing with us and for giving your time to, help groom startups and founders in Africa. We really appreciate all that you're doing for
I'm
them.
honored to be here. I'm
Yeah.
honored. All of you, I don't know if you've mentioned to them, but if all of you go out and to Scale Up Stream,
Yeah.
when you're ready to pitch, you can come on for Africa. We do them on Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. I'm generally the host. If you want to practice and come in, just register and come in and pitch, and I'll give you feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to kind of have to take some time and make that very well known to them. I'll show them how that could be done. So
And
everybody.
I can also do it with Tom. He can set one up, and I can be the host and sit in it with him. Him and I can be hosts, and you can come in and pitch. I'm more than welcome to do that as well. And we have other people that may, if you guys are interested, we can set up some Africa-focused pitches, so you can go and pitch to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll let you work on it. They've got their class to go through first and graduate.
All right. So thank you very much.
Take care.
Enjoy the rest of your day. It's already to 11 for us. Yeah, 11.
Yeah, it's late for you.
Yeah. All right.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Good night, guys. Bye.
Good night.
All right, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.